Going toward 50, I'm hearing, or 60,000 people. One is too many. I always say it. One is too many. But we're going toward 50 or 60,000 people. That's at the lower, as you know, the low number was supposed to be 100,000 people. We could end up at 50 to 60. Okay, it's horrible. If we didn't do what we did, we would have had, I think, 1 million people, maybe 2 million people, maybe more than that.
This is a highly contagious virus, and we don't know by looking at someone whether they have pre-existing conditions or not. And so all of us, as far as protecting others, must continue to do all of the recommendations to ensure that when we are in an asymptomatic state, we're not passing the virus to others.
Okay, did you hear that? Because that applies to everybody.
Yeah, so that
applies to everybody.
That does apply to everybody. Hey, Donald, thank you again for your support. We appreciate you watching and appreciate that in the middle of a pandemic, you actually have enough time to watch our show and then tweet about it. And yes, this year the ratings have, even before this pandemic, the best ever. And we thank you.
This is so childish.
We thank you
I
for
mean,
that.
tweeting.
So this is what Donald Trump just tweeted.
Calling you a psycho?
He watches every day, by the way.
This is your president,
Donald.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
While tens of thousands of people have died and there is suffering across the board in hospitals and hotspots across the country, and there is not the testing that Americans need, and the president refuses to do what needs to be done to get testing across the board, he's doing this.
So what's he doing? He's tweeting, watch the first 5 minutes of poorly rated Morning Psycho on MSDNC. That's very original, Donald.
Stop watching.
Sir, that's very, sir, just to see if he is as nuts as people are saying. See, I love this because he does, and everybody around him tells me he watches every day. So, but I like this, just to see such hatred and contempt. I used to do his show all the time before the 2016 election, then cut him off. Wasn't worth the effort. His mind is shot. And if you look right up above that, he has pinned a tweet where Barack Obama's face is actually superimposed on another head, Reverend Al, and a tweet that to say many people found be offensive would be an understatement. But here you have a guy who's in the middle of a pandemic. He can't get out of the mud. Again, every tweet he tweets about us is usually filled with 20 or 30 lies. He counted about 4 or 5, and that one right there. But he can't get out of his own way. He can't do the country's bidding. We were just showing clips where he actually was responsible yesterday. Well, but he can't help himself. He can't help himself. And in the middle of a pandemic, he puts up an ad where Barack Obama's head is superimposed in another ad that is beyond childish. I think a lot of people found it to be deeply offensive, just as Republicans would have found Barack Obama doing that to George W. Bush had he done that in his reelection campaign.
No, absolutely. When you look at when you have world leaders in history that face crisis, Churchill during World War II and Lincoln during the Civil War, would you really think, Mr. President, since you're watching now because you're so obsessed with Joe Scarborough that you can't help it, so since we have your attention because of Joe, would you really imagine Winston Churchill doing a tweet about something as ridiculous as you did with this whole commercial about Joe Biden learning how to deal with roaches and superimposing Barack Obama's head in the middle of World War II? Would you really think Abe Lincoln would be doing the kind of adolescence nonsense you're doing in the middle of Civil War? People are dying. You're the head of state, whether we supported you or not. This is in your lap. This will go down in history in the Trump era. And what are they going to say? That you were tweeting, that you were watching cable TV, taking shots at people that you were obsessed with because you couldn't control, or that you took charge of the state and you brought it to safety and you disproved all your doubters by rising to the occasion and becoming great? or do you have that in you? You're the one on trial, announcing you're going to end immigration after you let everybody in here, and as your followers are now saying that let's end stay at home. I mean, that's real consistent. Let's all go out now to our parlors and our massage parlors, but we're going to block everybody from coming in here so we can just cause killing ourselves, by ourselves. That makes a whole lot of sense, Mr. President.